we're on this planet that's nearby to target, our target blue giant. And here is going to be the sphere components. Sphere components? Did I say sphere components? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. The ratios are actually pretty straightforward, I think. It's just the sheer fact that there's so many factories you're going to have to make due to that long 8 second per cycle. Well, let's figure out best geometry for this. And here in Dyson Sphere Program Calculator, we have calculated the stuff that's being needed here. We are already familiar with the ratios that express as belts here. Again, one belt comes out, and three belts of those other three components is coming in. We've taken care of that already. What we haven't taken care of is the sheer number of factories that we're going to have to do on this. 160 of them. Well, let's find out what 160 factories looks like if you line them up across a planet. So here's a draft layout of how the 160 factories will be laid out for our one belt of the sphere component. So what we're looking at is 4 rows of assemblers, and they're 40 each, as 160 divided by 4 is, well, 40, as you can see. Now according to the factory calculator, though, we only need 3 belts. And needless to say, 160 divided by 3 doesn't exactly make a even number of assemblers. So that's the somewhat bad news. The somewhat good news, though, is instead of getting one belt to 53.33 assemblers, we're instead going to get it through 40. So what does that do? Making a belt go to 40? Well, if it only goes through 40 assemblers on each of the 3 belts that we're going to pass through, 3 rows of assemblers, the remainder of those 3 belts will go into the last assembler. This is a typical solution when you are having issues with evenly spreading belts on an uneven number of assemblers. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so from the looks of it, we have about this is about 1/4 of the way done now. Have 3 belts going in, and their outputs are going into a second level, and the second level through here. Again, this is 1/4 of it, so what we're going to do is repeat this 2 more times, which will present 3 main belts of the of what's incoming. Okay, let's put that in. Just like so. And this 4th line is going to be unique in that it's going to be fed by whatever left over from the first 3 lanes. So I'm going to have to delete these belts and redo them, except they're going the other way. Ah. Use that there. Okay, decided to add a power pole in between. It seems the easiest thing to do. As if they squeezed in, you do have to add power poles on both sides, so it gets kind of lopsided that way. Okay, so now the next part is connecting these three belts all together into this final set of belts. Uh, hmm. I'm figuring that out right now, but I think we're gonna try an experiment. What happens if we try to make it without any splitters? Connect the, combine all three belts into a final belt. Would it still be 30 per second? Yeah, definitely some some unique belts being used here. Okay. After making up some 2, 3, and 4 tile bridges, this is what we're coming up with. Now, so again, we have this single belt that's going to be combined with 2 other belts. Will that actually combine cleanly to make a 30-second? Well, we're gonna test it out. Let's add in the ILS next. Alright, so now I've hooked up a few of the belts together now. The processors, the frames, and the sails are all split into groups of 3. Starting with the bottom 3, going over here. The middle 3 spits right out through the ILS, and then the top 3 going over it. Everything's pretty much set up, so let's just bring over the stuff. Okay, now everything has arrived. Processors being last, more on that layer. But now hopefully everything is loaded into the assemblers. They'll be spitting out a full belt of components, which would be noticeable right about here. No, wait, right here. The four lines of the assemblers will each have 4 belts, and what we're attempting to do here is just combine them all into this one belt here. If everything is working fine, all the assemblers will be outputting without getting jammed, so to speak. And it's all working so far, including the last row. And so far, no jams or anything. So this is looking pretty good already. And this final output belt is almost full, which indicates the full 30 per second is coming in. Protection panel, ideally, after a minute, this will register as 1800 a minute. But it appears we have a failure. Processor failure. Yep, it appears the vessels have failed to bring in enough processors. And the reason we ran out of processor failure, is because our processor throughput's not high enough, and throughput's not high enough because we don't have enough vessels dedicated to bringing over the processors. The main issue here is this is where the processors are made, and this is where they're supposed to be going. As you can see, it's a distance of about 30 light years. That's unusually far away. I have my reasons, but but what that means is that the vessels will take much longer to bring over their cargo to over here. So the quick an easy solution is, yeah, just have more vessels dedicated to bring it over. Well, how many vessels do you actually need to keep up with that throughput? And here's the equation for vessels needed, considering your desired throughput. We have the number of vessels needed equals the desired throughput in, usually per minute, divided by 1,000. 1,000 is the usually the max capacity of a vessel, and multiply that by the round trip time in minutes. So it's calculated for, or at least measured as well, the round trip time from here all the way over to where the processes are originally, to be about 5.5 minutes. Actually, that's quite a while. And the desired throughput is actually three belts of the processors. So it take 1,800 a minute. Multiply that by 3. So our desired throughput is 5,400. Divide that by 1,000. 5.4, and multiply by the round trip time in minutes. So I rounded that out again to be about 5.5 minutes. So what that runs out to be is rounds up to about 30 vessels. So what we're going so we need 30 vessels to keep up with this throughput. 10 definitely didn't do the job, as we saw. So let's get. All right, so let's get 30 vessels going. My preferred place to put them is actually around here. But since I'm not using the second zone for much anyway, we can put that there instead. By our ILS making the sphere components. Oh, slimy needs. It helps a little bit to have these vessels also working, but to do that they need warpers to do that with. Okay, now what we should be seeing now is about 30 vessels heading for over here. I see a couple of sets of them coming over right now. So now we just wait about 5 minutes. And here comes the first and second batches. That's the first batch apparently. The second one. Okay, and there's that third one arriving over. Alright, well, no point in waiting. Let's open up the taps and see what happens. Remote demand. Remote demand the sails. Remote demand the frames. Vessels are running. The drones are bringing over processors from our let's say our main processor buffer. Okay, so again to recap, the three inputs, the three lines of the three belts input everything, input through those three lines, everything that's left over recombines into the fourth line. And as we can see, we're definitely getting one belt of components going. So all that, let's check out how the processes are coming. Oh yes, it's definitely working. Oh, we have nearly 6, 7, quite a few vessels in transit at the moment. Hopefully that will be enough to keep up. And production panel shows us getting very close to a belt. I think as this is filling up and we have 1800, let's consider one last thing here. So the thing to consider is how this sort of setup would scale up or tile. What I mean by tiling is you're just basically going to copy and paste this very same thing and try to get as many as you can going in your planet or planets. So what I'm going to try to do is see how many that I can fit in this same zone. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 'Oh dear. So it looks like we can only fit 5 in here. When we try to get the 6, it is divided by a tropic line, that yellow line that you see over here. It's just barely not not short enough. So we might have gotten 6 of these tiled vertically if we were able to get this just a little bit shorter. Again, this is not a this is beyond the scope of this session, but if we can find a way to get these get this a bit shorter, maybe arrange the geometry just a little bit so we can fit the maximum and fit as many as we can into a planet. But yeah, something to consider. Okay, and I'm back, and it looks like we have managed to make this build a little bit better. We've shortened the length of the build by basically using this trick involving the satellite substations. You just take one of these assemblers and you replace it with the satellite substation. And if you play your cards right and you place them just the right way, then you can cover up all the assemblers like so. And here I'm just showing 6 tiles fitting in an equatorial zone, which is not too shabby. I'm probably not going to expand that far, at least not at this point. But doing this now, it's nice to know that that option can be used at the when the time comes.